the premier show, but now at this point there are shows in Massachusetts, which is the Boston show, Maine, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Connecticut, and Vermont all this year. But Boston, again, is going to be that premier event. I know in talking to some of the staff over there, they sold out on sponsor booths months ago. And it's big. I'm pretty sure the map I looked at, I think there was like 300 different booths or something. It looks like a pretty big convention. And what's most impressive to me, at least from the outside looking in, is that a singular state convention like that, obviously New England is more than just the state of Massachusetts and the East Coast. There's so many different markets that are condensed there. But for something that's seemingly the majority of it is just Massachusetts, to see a conference at this scale happen annually is pretty impressive, considering like, NECANN, who we've worked with, launched in Seattle, but doesn't do, like, Seattle kind of got this quickly got like trade show and conference fatigue, where like we had CannCon and then we had all these big ones, and then there's like too many for the market to sustain. And then now we don't really have anything in Washington, and Massachusetts since 2014 has been holding on to this big conference. So definitely impressive to see that. And I'm excited to get out there and see what the hype is about.
That is such a good observation on the conference fatigue. I feel like that's kind of happened in LA, to be honest with you. There used to be a lot more opportunities to connect brands with buyers, specifically California Buyers Club. Then there's a couple other conventions that I don't want to like mention names to put anyone down, but that have totally just gone down in quality and participation. And it's almost kind of scammy, their website. Like, to buy tickets, you have to go to some third-party donation. I don't know. I think people got weirded out. But with NECANN, may I ask, what is like the intention behind the convention? Is it to connect brands with buyers? Is it just to spread awareness? Do you have to like be an approved buyer or industry member to go? Because this is really cool. I've never really heard of this one, and it's been around since 2014. So educate me, Mitch.
Yeah, I think it is in the lane of MJ BizCon or CannCon, where it is definitely, you don't need to be in the industry to buy a ticket, right? You can be truly curious about the industry, and I think it's one of those things that is kind of for everything, right? Like, you can go there and check out ancillary services, hardware and equipment, but then there's also brands and dispensaries, so it's kind of that when we initially saw those events and like what an MJ BizCon, that is a little bit of everything, right? Because not like Hall of Flowers is very much, buyers and brands is the meat and potatoes of that. Obviously, it's a little bit bigger than that, but that's the tunnel vision for that goal. MJ Unpacked, which we're a part of, and that one's coming up in April, has a very defined, it's investors, and then it's just operators, connecting operators. NECANN is much more of that broad thing. And so I think that's where it's even more impressive to see it at this scale, for it to exist and not have like this narrow focus, kind of be that, hey, we're going to be everything, which everybody has their different model. Some people are like, yeah, you can't be too one-dimensional, and some people are like, no, you can't be too big. You lose focus when you're too big. So seeing somebody take that approach, it's like, hey, we're going to be everything. And so this is the fourth annual, and then they're doing the NECANN Cup. So it'll be the fourth annual NECANN Cup. So they have a couple different components of what they're doing. There's like the conference, which has the trade show floor. There'll be speakers and panels and things of that nature. And then they're having the NECANN Cup, the fourth annual NECANN Cup, where obviously they'll be grading different products and things like that. And then there's also a ton, much like an MJ BizCon, there's a ton of just like brunches and happy hours and after parties kind of surrounding this event. So I'm really excited I've yet to go. I've heard about it for a while, but I've yet to physically attend. So I'm excited to attend. And then especially, it's always nice when something's of this scale and has all those little micro events surrounding it. So you can kind of like not just be in one place and still can, make as many connections and network as much as possible. And then I was trying to read about the NECANN. Oh, then they have the New England Cannabis Community Awards is another part of this. So it's interesting. I mean, for a 3-day pass, what's the 3-day pass is, it's like $60 for a 3-day pass. So it's not too crazy,
Yeah, that's really that's really accessible. That's another thing. I feel like a lot of brands have gotten sick of trade shows here on the West Coast because some of these ticket prices are just absolutely insane. And the ROI, a lot of brands are, determining is not necessarily there. Like if they have to pay $800 per team member or something like that,
Right.
a little hard to justify those purchases. So that's super cool. And more states in that area are coming online. So what a great opportunity. I know there's just so many people in like New Jersey, for example, who are looking for some of those ancillary services and business services. So sounds like a great event. Maybe I'll try to look into going next year. The 10th through 12th, that's also, I think, Cannabis time too.
Yep.
So we'll talk about
Sadly,
that in later episodes, maybe.
yeah, sadly, both of those were something that we wanted to attend, but NECANN is just a little bit, I think Cannabis would be a little bit more fun. NECANN is going to make a little bit more sense business-wise, just in terms of the audience we're going to be networking with. But trust me, Joe and I were a little, our heads hung a little bit low when we realized. And I was sitting there trying to look at flights, like, could we make it for a couple days here? And I was like, trying to travel across the globe, it just wasn't, we just had to pick one, man. So sadly, we won't be at Cannabis. Shout out everyone going out there. I'm slightly devastated, but I'm not, because we're going to be out at NECANN, and this is something I've been wanting to go for a while. And I really personally love the Massachusetts market. We've made a lot of friends out there. It's just an exciting market. And then we're actually a part of an event on Friday, March 10th of NECANN from 4 to 7 p.m. called Mass Grass. It's going to be pretty close, really easy to get to from the Heinz Convention Center in Boston. And so, yeah, from 4 to 7 p.m., kind of early in the day. I know there's some parties later that evening and even some happy hours. So you can kind of stop by happy hour, stop by our event, and then move on with your evening. But we'll be doing an event, and it's definitely going to be, it's going to be consumption, not encouraged, but consumption friendly, man. So, when you go and get in the midst of the B2B stuff, sometimes it gets a little stuffy. Some of those happy hours are just cocktails. We're a part of something that's making sure that you can light up and share some vibes of what's bringing us all there, man. So I'm excited about that. Moving on to the next topic, man. GUMBO Brands is announced their Hot 97 radio show. So Funk Flex, I think if people who are not from New York, you probably know what Hot 97 is. Funk Flex, the legendary DJ, has been a part of Hot 97 for I don't even want to say it because I don't know how. I don't want to estimate it, but he's had to have been there for probably 2 decades, 10 years, 15 years, something like that. So he's really been one of the people putting Hot 97 on the map. It's a big deal, not just in New York, but people look at Hot 97's influence on hip hop culture, even outside of its listenership in the New York metro area, is massive. It's one of the biggest platforms for hip hop. It's been a standard for a long time. If you have music that it gets played on Hot 97, I actually had some music played on Hot 97 in 2007 or 8 or something. Man, that was on my resume for a long time. But GUMBO Brands, a cannabis company coming out of New York, is getting their own show. And I think that this is massive because we've been talking about New York coming online and what that means, coming online with legalization and what that means for the cannabis industry. And everyone talks about, the media and the cultural influence and the entertainment influence that New York has. Obviously, LA is the only city that rivals New York in the US when it comes to media and entertainment. And while movies and all that is shot out in LA, radio and just entertainment in general, record labels, a lot of that stuff originated out of New York. It has a very influential place in not just this country, but globally. And so seeing a brand like GUMBO that was a legacy brand grown inside the streets of New York, that's now expanded and launched in California, now is coming online in New York, getting their own radio station. It's just going to be this crazy connection of just entertainment, mainstream media, and cannabis, kind of this fusion that a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of these MSOs and such would pay a lot of money to produce something like this, where GUMBO is just organically happening because they're out there. I think it's super dope. And I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with this format. Is cannabis going to be much involved with it, or is it just their brand hosting some entertainment? I don't think we have a lot of insight of what it's going to look like just yet.
Very cool. This is really interesting to me because I don't really know I can't say I know the regulations in New York. I need to get more versed on those and spend a day kind of thumbing through them. However, I am kind of versed in the regulations here in California. And I know that when it comes to advertising on TV, in different media channels, it's definitely hard for cannabis businesses. There's regulations that full on bar cannabis businesses from making like a TV commercial. But one area where they're allowed to advertise is the radio. I don't know if you remember, or you don't live in LA, but a couple years ago when Weed Maps was going through all that fundraising, it was all on the radio. Just so many radio commercials like get involved in cannabis, like become a investor into Weed Maps. I've heard a couple other brands have radio commercials. So this is actually a really smart way to hack the system, um, with that ability to advertise on a media channel, so I'm totally interested to see what direction they go in and what kind of guests they have, what kind of topics they cover, because this is actually a super smart like media hack for cannabis advertising.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I read about that a while ago. I do believe, like similar to LA, you'll be able to advertise cannabis on the radio out there. But one of the interesting things too is like with a brand like Gumbo, right? Like when we look at like Cookies, Cookies has the clothing line, and then obviously Burner's music to kind of hack its way into marketing, right? Like because Burner's tours across the country, you have in a bus wrapped as a huge advertisement of Cookies pulling up in every market, whether cannabis is legal or not, driving through there, right? So it's this massive moving billboard. And then they have the clothing line that has stores globally, whether cannabis is legal or not. And you can get served Instagram and YouTube ads, influencer content with this. So Cookies branding is able to just get out there in this organic way that other brands would have to pay for that kind of advertising, right? Whereas it's a part of their business model. And that's similar to what I'm looking at Gumbo, like with like Gumbo's working with and getting shouted out by Migos, Meek Mill, Moneybagg Yo, Davey. Like these rappers are talking about this strain and brand in their lyrics without even being paid for it, right? It's just this like organic relationship. So now you're seeing that brand get its own radio show, even if they don't even talk about cannabis, even if they don't even mention on air that they're a cannabis brand, their connections to hip hop and of who they can just pull on to interview on this story that are just their friends or supporters of their brand is massive influence. And you're getting the brand out there at scale in a way, again, in a way that other brands would pay a lot of money for and hope that it connects at a fraction of the level that I anticipate this connecting. So I just think it's really cool to see. I think it's really cool to just see these brands, more brands than just Cookies kind of break that mold and be more than just cannabis. Moving on, the next topic that we got, man. So there was a recent study. I'm not exactly sure how they did it, but it was on Ganjapreneur. Shout out our friends at Ganjapreneur. But 50% of Wisconsin residents live within 75 miles of a dispensary, and that is without cannabis being legal in Wisconsin. So due to all of the border states, if you live in Wisconsin, there's a 50% chance that it's a little bit over an hour for you to go get some weed. And that's between, I'm trying to think of all the states. It's like Michigan, Illinois, sorry. And then I'm trying to think, I guess Minnesota's, I think, medical right now, but you got Michigan and Illinois. And if you're close to the Michigan side, you're close to a lot of great deals on recreational cannabis. And I've heard a lot about the advertising, the billboards all around Michigan, just talking about these deals for cannabis because so many people are pouring in from border state. Even when cannabis is legal in a border state of Michigan, people are still driving to Michigan just because of the deals on weed right now.
Yeah, I've have my friend has a couple relatives in Minnesota, and they always want him to mail vape carts from California. It's like, why don't you just drive to Michigan? It's right there. I'm very confused by it. But I will say this reminds me of legislation that just passed in California. I can't remember the exact name of the Assembly bill or Senate bill, but it had to do with interstate commerce and kind of making these things a little bit easier. Now, I'm not sure, at least in the California laws, if that's limited, obviously, to 2 states that already have recreational or medical cannabis. I don't really know if it involves going into states that don't have any sort of regulated market. But it'll be interesting to see if interstate commerce catches on, how it will affect these kinds of situations, especially in states where you're bordering a state that is also totally a different political landscape, let's say. I want to put that nicely. But like if you're Florida, bordering Alabama or like something like that, it'll be really interesting to see how these things play out. I know Missouri just got recreational cannabis, so hopefully that becomes a non-issue for that little Midwest chunk. But it will be really interesting to see how interstate commerce kind of starts affecting these things. Maybe it'll smooth it out. Maybe it'll make it more confusing. We'll see.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, there's a lot of questions in that arena, but it's just crazy, testament to a state like Wisconsin. At some point, when you're the only state holding out and there's legal weed all around you, you're just giving up immense, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue to bordering states. And whatever policies you have of being anti-legalization, it's making no dent. It's making no difference. You're losing tax dollars to either bordering states or the black market. And so who knows? But I just think it's interesting that, if you live in Wisconsin, it's not, depending on where you live, it's not that big of a bummer that weed's not legal, because it's only an hour to go get it. And, shit, even back when weed was illegal out here in Washington, if you would have told me I only had to drive an hour and 15 minutes to get that kind of selection and like a Michigan level of prices, bet I would have gladly drove that 2-hour round trip every week, man, or once a month and stocked up whatever it needed to be. So, all that Wisconsin consumers are waiting on now is just convenience, man. A little bit less of a drive, and so the government will start getting tax dollars. Next up in Hollywood, man, Natural Remedy Caregivers just picked up the RMR Legacy Smalls lines. Check out their menu. Currently, we're for sale in Long Beach at LB Collective, Market Run Delivery in LA. And I think we have one other delivery out there, so forgive me for removing that. But the only dispensary storefront that we're in currently in the LA area or Hollywood area is going to be Natural Remedy Caregivers. So shout out them. Joey just went to check in on how the brand was doing. It was funny. He found a couple empty packaging on the street. So shout out to people that came through, bought a quarter, and I guess smoked through it before they made it too far away from the dispensary. But we're with that, man. Salute to you guys for supporting. And then lastly, on the cannabis side, man, MJ Unpacked, I briefly touched on it earlier, but MJ Unpacked is coming back to New York City in April 26th to the 28th, I believe. I'm trying to think because we're going out there before and after, so I'm having trouble thinking of the actual days versus when we're traveling. Let me verify that real quick. Dang it, hold on. 26th through the 28th, Midtown, Hilton Midtown in New York. We're a media partner on that event. We will also be having a booth at the event, and then I'll be moderating a panel. I don't think I can let out the information on that panel just yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to that. So anyone that's looking to come out to MJ Unpacked, make sure you tap in with us. We'll be interviewing folks on the floor the entire week out there. Super stoked to get back out to New York.
What days was that again? April 26th?
26th through the 28th. I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Or no, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So that'll be fire. This is the second one. We were out there last April. It was my first time ever in New York City for MJ Unpacked. It was a dope reason to go to New York for the first time. Sad that I let this much of my life go by before getting out there, but it is what it is. But it was a blast. I'm definitely looking forward to getting back. Cannabis culture is it was an amazing thing because, the excitement in the B2B space was there. And then you have all these kind of, we were talking about earlier, so many neighboring states, so many people from Massachusetts and New Jersey. It's an easy drive for them. So it's kind of this nice inflection point of all these different markets, and there's people from all over the country there. But then also outside of the conference, we got to go to like Astor Club and Legacy New York, and you can just smoke weed walking around New York City without any fear. So it was a trip to be in the middle of Times Square with police and families everywhere, and you're just sparking up a blunt and literally nobody even looks at you funny. It's a really weird thing, but it's also awesome at the same time.
My goal then is to go next year, and I'm going to do the Rihanna thing in Times Square, just be rolling a blunt on top of someone's head on their shoulders. My new bucket list goal. No, but that's great. It'll be really interesting to go after this year of cannabis has been absolutely insane in New York. So I'm sure it'll be a different experience than your last visit.
Yeah, that's what I'm missing, because like, you know, like what they have 3 dispensaries now in the city. So I'm by April.
3 dispensaries.
Yeah. I mean, there's 3,000, but there's
right.
three legitimate ones. But I think by April we'll probably see another, I don't know, another 10 probably in the city, right? Like we'll probably be up to close to 20. So that'll be cool too. I'm definitely looking forward to go do the black market shopping, because it's just a cool vibe to do that. And then I definitely, not necessarily looking forward to, because I know what it's like, not shitting on New York, buying legal weed in the first year of it being available in any state is a pretty shitty experience, in my opinion. It's overpriced, the quality sucks, and like the bud tenders are the fucking worst. But again, I don't fault them. It's literally how every market, I feel like, has been. So I'm not excited to do it legally, but it'll be cool. It'll be cool to do it. We got to do it. And then, so moving to music. So we put out a list of Seattle rappers to know in 2023. Being someone I'm not from Seattle, but from Washington and living in the Seattle area, you know, a lot of people out there not from out here. You guys know about Macklemore. You guys know about Sir Mix-a-Lot. That's probably about the extent of your Seattle music rappers that you're aware of. If you're a young folk, you might know Lil Mosey, who blew up the last couple years. But outside of that, you might not know many people, but we've got quite a bit of talent out here securing major label deals, and then a lot of people just bubbling up from inside the city. And so we put together a list of just folks to check out. There's a lot of dope shit. If you're on that Bay Area style of rap, kind of that Bay Area street style, not the traditional Bay Area type stuff, but that new age kind of street music, there's a lot of stuff in there that'll satisfy you. I think if you're on the West Coast, a lot of stuff starts to sound familiar, whether you're in Portland, or, you know, LA, the Bay, Seattle. A lot of people that just are from the West Coast street culture grew up very similar, talking the same way. So you hear a lot of that. So it's pretty dope. And then one of the things, I just got to salute all the people on here, I'm not going to run through their list, is being that I know Seattle and Washington is on its kind of own island. We don't have labels. We don't have infrastructure. We don't have media. We're very far away from LA. It's not an easy drive. It's an easy flight, but it's not an easy drive. So we're just not super connected to a lot of these platforms, if you will. So anybody that's made this list has really done it off of the strength of their own hustle and getting out there. There is no handouts to be given out here. All of these people have built things and just taken it all on their own. So I think it's really dope to watch this new generation of guys. Just, you know, we used to see in the past a lot of people complain about this lack of infrastructure, and now we're just seeing people that just say, fuck it, it is what it is, and going and getting it. So I really salute all the music hustlers out there making moves, man. Next up on music, EDC Mexico. That was this weekend. I don't have much recap because I'm not a EDM fan myself, and I haven't talked to Farah, our correspondent, who was actually there as press, but she put together an article on EDC, everything she was looking forward to. We'll have a recap real soon. Dani, I know you're a little bit more in the festival scene. Where it was EDC Mexico. Are you hip to that event?
I honestly didn't even know about this, but now I'm like, holy crap. I'm so sad this passed. I just got my passport renewed, so I'm looking for places to go. And this would have been dope because, okay, there's one artist, Aluna, who I really, really like. She kind of entered the music space like 5-6 years ago as Aluna George. She was a graphic designer who kind of started doing some EDM and singing. And now she's changed her name to Aluna. I see she was there on Saturday at the Circuit Grounds from 6 to 7 p.m. The last time I saw her live was so much fun at Hard Summer, like a couple years ago. So this is definitely now on my list for next year. I personally would rather go to EDC Mexico than EDC Vegas. So this is really cool.
And something that Farah brought up was that tickets, I can't remember what she said, tickets were under $200 for the full EDC experience, which is obviously significantly cheaper than a Vegas. And then she was just talking about, Airbnbs and staying in that area is super cheap. So she was just saying, financially, even though you're traveling all the way to Mexico, she was just kind of brought up like, this isn't like, it might even be cheaper than Vegas, right? And you're in Mexico. So that's obviously amazing. If you're big, if you love Mexican culture, love traveling to Mexico, love Mexican food, there's obviously some clear benefits outside of just attending EDC. So I thought it was super dope to see that. And it's really cool to see over the last couple of years, like Rolling Loud, I think, is going to Thailand this year. We're starting to see these festivals. Like, I guess there's always been global festivals, but we're starting to see some of these big festivals from the US starting to go to these travel destinations, which just kind of connect us on a different level, which makes sense. Obviously, when you look at EDM, how many DJs and artists are from all over the globe. And then we're just seeing kind of this globalization of music in general, whether it's South American artists, African artists, European artists. Like, so many people are starting to come to just the forefront of mainstream music, where in the past, a lot of it really felt like United States and like UK. Those were like the two leading areas for our Main Street artists. And now we're starting to see people from all over the globe. And it's just providing a dope vibe, man. It's just bringing all these different sounds from everywhere together. And I love it, man. I'm here for it. And then, shoot, I just knocked out my topics, man. Hold on one sec. And then another festival announced, Roots Picnic in Philadelphia. So the legendary Roots band puts on their annual Roots Picnic Festival. This year they got a crazy lineup, man. They got Miss Lauryn Hill as the headliner, Diddy, and Dave Chappelle. And so for people that don't know, Dave Chappelle and the Roots have always had some, not always, but always had a relationship. And Dave Chappelle has obviously been very much involved in music, thrown a lot of festivals. He did the Block Party for a while. So it's dope to see that. My one thing, I don't think Lauryn Hill will do it to the Roots, but I think we were talking about that, not you and me, Danny, but I was talking about this a while ago. It's like Lauryn Hill is known for no showing in these days, in this day and age. And so that's the one for me. I'm like, the one call out, I'm like, damn, they're really advertising Lauryn Hill, and she has been known not to show up to shows that she's promoted on. I don't know if she's going to do that to the Roots and all that, but that's something I'd be a little weary about. If you're going to this just for Lauryn Hill, I'd cross my fingers a little bit.
Good advice, Mitch.
I love Lauryn Hill, but I just, So we got some other new music on the site. And then just the last topic of this, we did an article exploring, man, these red boots, man, the Mischief red boots, the Astro boots, this trend that's coming out, these big, in my opinion, these big ass ugly Nintendo looking footwear that are booming right now. I saw it going viral everywhere, and then you start to see the TikToks and the memes making fun of it. But I don't know, man. When I look at stuff like this, the fashion is just crazy to see these oversized boots on people. I'm not a fashionable dude, so someone could totally tell me I'm out the loop and I don't get it, and I wouldn't disagree with them. But I don't know what these boots are. I don't know why they're popping. Have you seen them, Danny? What are your thoughts on these joints?
Of course, I've seen them. I haven't been living under a rock. No, but I've seen them a lot on social media. I've seen some funny videos of them, like that one guy, they're trying to pull it off of his foot and they're pulling him along with it. But I actually like the boots personally. Like if someone got these for me, I'd be down. I think they retail for about $250. They're cool because like the metaverse and stuff is becoming so popular in like VR. They kind of look like you are a VR / video game character. I forget which cartoon they're inspired by, but they're inspired by a cartoon character. So I think for that, like being inspired by a cartoon character, making you look like a cartoon character, they're pretty cool. I really love this one is that Janelle Monáe.
Yeah, Monáe, yeah.
Clouds. The cloud print. I'm not sure if those are wrapped or like a custom design, but I do really like these. Okay, they retail for $350, not $250. My bad. But I do like these because of the influence of technology, the metaverse, all of that kind of stuff. Everyone wanting to be an avatar. I think it kind of fits with that theme. I actually like this look more than the like weird BDSM outfits people are wearing out to like walk their dog. Like I way prefer looking like a video game character than everyone looking like a BDSM dominatrix person. Personally,
That's fair. And that's a good point. You brought up the metaverse thing. That's a good point, and I didn't think of that. I'm still not necessarily a fan of the boots personally, but like I said, I'm pretty lame when it comes to fashion in general. But that is a good point. As we move to this digital age, whether it's just the NFTs brought up, like everyone wanted just this kind of like avatar version of themselves, right? Which obviously existed before we had actual photos of ourselves, right? Everybody had avatars on the internet, but it's like this avatar thing, and now they're making avatars to exist in the metaverse. And there's one of the things that kind of just clicked for me is like, oh yeah, if you can. We define ourselves by how we dress, how we look, our style. As we create a digital version of ourselves, you have a little bit more freedom to make yourself look however you want, whether, and a little bit out of touch of reality, whatever you're interested in, right? But you can build this creative depiction of yourself. And I understand even though it's not real, I get the psychological aspect of like why someone would do that and enjoy that, right? And there's a lot of people out there, mainly dudes, they're probably like, oh, that's whack, whatever. It's like, y'all been playing video games, doing creative characters for a long time. So you diss someone else for doing that, you're doing the same thing. But it's interesting to see that tie-in with like being able to create this crazy fashion in a digital version and then be able to make a physical version of that. When you said that, I'm like, oh, I wasn't thinking about that, man. That's a unique take on that.
I want to try some on. I wonder if they're comfortable. I like them.
Yeah, I couldn't do it, but again, that's just me, and I'll acknowledge I'm lame with the fashion. I'm not gonna diss the fashion. I'll diss myself before I diss the fashion, but I don't know. I can't do it. But with that, man, that's all we got. We just had to let people know about these red boots. They are called Astro boots, man. I was just we were all kind of like talking in our group chat over here, like, what are these? Everyone was obviously sharing varying opinions. And so we dived in and looked at those for you guys. That's it for this episode of The Morning Joint, man. We're here every Monday. Newsletter should be in your inbox if you're subscribed. If not, check us out, respectnorigin.com. We got content dropping every day of the week, man. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us.